I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In today's video, I want to talk about something really important, and that's the subject of tokenomics. So basically, what is tokenomics? And then, well, how do you use it? How do you analyze a particular project? As always, if you like those videos, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And also, if you would like to learn more, please do check out my course, Crypto Like a Pro. You can find out more in the description. So about tokenomics. Well, it's a word that comes from two words, token and economics. So basically, it's the economics of a particular token in the crypto space. So how those tokens are issued, how many of them are going to be, how they are distributed, who will get them at which point, and so on. So basically, if you analyze the tokenomics of a particular project, you can then assess, hopefully reasonably accurately, whether at a particular point in time it's worth investing in that project or not. Essentially, is the price of the token good or bad? Do you think there is a lot of potential for growth? Is it likely to dip very soon for various reasons? And I'll talk about those in a moment, and so on. So it's just one of many tools you can use to do your own research, to find out more about a project and assess its viability as an investment or as a project in general. I will start with going through this list here. So we'll just look at various elements of tokenomics, what you have to look at when you are assessing a particular project. And then I will go through it all again, but using a specific token as an example. And for this, I will use ApeCoin. And there's no other reason other than the fact that there is plenty of information available about ApeCoin. So I know I can go through all of those items using that particular example. But then, of course, with other tokens, there may be some differences, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So first of all, if you are analyzing a particular token, the first question is, well, what's that token supply? How many tokens will be issued over, well, essentially at any point in the future? How many tokens are currently in circulation? So are the tokens currently in circulation the total existing supply, or will there be more coming in the future? Bitcoin is a really good example here. We know there will be only ever 21 million Bitcoins. And at the moment, I think there is around 19 million, something like that. But you can quite easily check it. If we go to, let's say, CoinGecko and look at Bitcoin, the current number of, well, the supply of Bitcoin is, the supply of a particular token is one of the most important things you should check. So we can see that circulating supply is just over 19 million and total supply and max supply is 21 million. So that is 19.2 million out of 21 in circulation. And of course, in the case of Bitcoin, we know that new tokens are being issued through the process of mining, and they are being added relatively slowly. And there's fewer and fewer of them being added. So over the next few years, most of the tokens will be mined, and the remaining very small percentage will take another, I don't know, something like 50 years or 100 years to finish mining, but it'll be a very, very small percentage, right? So this is really important, because if there is a huge difference between these two figures, let's say current circulating supply is 20 million, but the total supply is 200 million, then, well, that will have significant impact on the price at some point in the future, because you need to know how those additional tokens will be issued. Because if there is 20 million out of 200 million, well, that means that only 10% is currently on the market. So the remaining 90% will eventually have to be released to the market. And you need to know, well, what's the process of that? How those tokens are being released, at which points in time? Because whenever there is new batch hitting the market, well, the price will dip, right? So yeah, how many tokens? How many tokens currently in circulation? How many will be issued in total? And what are the mechanisms for that? Which then brings me to the next point, which is issuance tactics. So how those tokens are going to be created and when they're going to be released. So are they going to be slowly mined over time, like it's the case with Bitcoin, or are they all created straight away, but then locked in various vesting schedules in various contracts? So for example, the team will get, I don't know, let's say 20% of all tokens, but they will be unlocked over a period of 5 years, for example, or something like that. Are there any burning mechanisms? So will the number of tokens go down in the future? Or maybe there are new tokens being issued but at the same time, tokens are also being burned. So that number is either in balance, or sometimes there are more tokens in circulation, sometimes fewer. This is, for example, what's happening with Ethereum at the moment. So as you may know, portion of every gas fee is being burned. So the more transactions there are on Ethereum network, the more ether is being burned. But at the same time, there is unlimited supply of ether. There's no limit to how many tokens will be ever in existence, but the total amount of tokens currently at any given point in time is, well, it fluctuates. It's not fixed because it depends on how many new tokens are being issued and how many are being burned. But this is just one of many examples, and we'll look at other examples in a moment. Then what's the allocation and distribution of the tokens? So who will get the tokens, when, how, and is it in any way centralized? So for example, is the project team going to get like 80% of all the tokens? So are 2 or 3 people going to hold pretty much the whole supply or very significant part of supply, and therefore largely control what's happening with that token and its price? Who will get the tokens? So of course, project founders will get some tokens, then the team most likely. Of course, many other people, like let's say anyone who marketed the token, or often many influencers or advisors and so on. And yeah, it's perfectly normal that that's how a large percentage of tokens is distributed, but it's important to know exactly how many of those tokens or what percentages goes to whom, and most importantly, when they will be able to actually sell them, because that's one very important thing, that those tokens, and if you ever participate in something like IGO, you know that, okay, you get to invest at a very, very early stage in a project, but you cannot straight away sell all of those tokens. You're not getting all of them straight away, and you're not able to sell them straight away, because otherwise, well, those early investors would just dump them straight away on the market and the price would plummet, which is not good for anyone involved. So what usually happens is, or pretty much always happens, is there's some sort of vesting or lockup schedule. So the tokens are being released over time, but we'll talk about it in a minute. And then another important question in this section is how people are going to get those tokens. So are they all distributed, let's say, I don't know, via an airdrop, for example, to holders of a particular NFT? Or are they going to be, I don't know, you can get them through an IGO or something else? I mean, there are many, many mechanisms, and there is no good and bad option here. It's just important to know how exactly those tokens are being distributed and to whom and when. And I've briefly mentioned vesting or lockup schedules. So whenever new token is being released, well, of course, large percentage of that token will go to the team, to, like I said, various advisors and so on, marketing, etc. But those tokens will be locked in certain schedule, in certain vesting schedule, contract, whatever you want to call it. So as I said earlier, that, for example, the project team may get, let's say, 20% of all tokens, and then they may be able to unlock those tokens over the period of 5 years. So for example, when the project launches, they may be able to unlock, let's say, 5% of their allowance, so of their 100%. And then maybe, I don't know, another 5% every couple of months, or whatever other schedule there may be. There are many different options here. If you ever participated in an IGO, you probably know that there are many, many different possibilities. So sometimes you'll get, let's say, 20% per month over a period of 5 months. Sometimes you may get, for example, 50% and then 10% over the next 5 months, or in each of the next 5 months, and so on. I mean, there are many, many different ways. Usually tokens are being released in relatively small chunks. So basically you don't want, or well, the project team doesn't want large number of tokens hitting the market at any given point in time. Because of course, when that happens, there is very high likelihood that the price will crash, because people who either got those tokens for free or bought them at a very, very low price, either pre-IGO or at the IGO stage, well, they can then sell them for a profit. And then of course, well, as those tokens are hitting the market, the price goes down. Then there's also token utility. So that's not necessarily straight away related to the distribution of the token itself, but it's important when you're analyzing the token itself is like, well, what actually is the purpose of this token, of this coin? Is it used as some sort of governance coin token? Is just a meme maybe? Is it, yeah, essentially what's the value? Why should anyone care about gathering those tokens? Does it give you an access to an IGO, a whitelist, or opportunity to get on the whitelist? Or I don't know, there may be many different options, but there must be some sort of utility there. And if there is none, which sometimes is the case, it's like, okay, well, that's fine, but you have to be aware that essentially this token is created probably just for fun or just in a hope that it will go up for some random reason, like it's often the case with meme coins. So it's important to know what is the utility or lack of thereof and to what degree it can drive the value of this token up. Then we have market cap. I mean, that's something that you're probably already well familiar with, but it's always important to analyze the market cap. Is it currently over or underpriced, or does the price seem to be fair? How does it compare to other similar tokens, so to its competition? How has it changed over time? So, I don't know, they go down a lot, and is it now a good moment to go invest into that particular token? This will often be quite closely linked to the price, but not necessarily there is always perfect correlation, because as more and more tokens are hitting the market, you will find that at certain points in time, there is actually a bit of a gap between how the price moves and how the market cap moves, right? Because of the changing supply and the changing price, they don't always go in line when new tokens are being released. So that's something really important to be aware of. And again, this goes back to this whole thing with the token vesting schedule when new tokens are being released. Last thing you want to do is buy a particular token literally a couple of days before a new batch of tokens is unlocked, because it's pretty much guaranteed that the price will go down, right? So yeah, this is just something really important to be aware of, and always keep track of it before you invest in a particular project. And then finally, the volume and exchanges. Whatever you are trading, doesn't matter whether it's crypto, NFTs, stocks, options, anything else. If there is no volume, you cannot trade it. I mean, the project itself may be good. You may have a lot of money potentially in that particular project, but if there is no one to buy it, well, it's worthless, right? So there must be volume, and there must be large enough volume to support those trades. So for example, if you somehow end up with a large bag of particular tokens, but the volume is very low, you cannot dump them all at the same time on the market. I mean, it's extremely unlikely that you'll be able to move the price by yourself. But if you think about it, well, if a token has daily volume of trades, let's say 50,000, and you have 5,000 or 10,000 worth of those tokens, well, that's a very large percentage of the daily volume. So if you try to trade all of them, that will impact the price, that will dip the price straight away. So you will have to sell them in smaller chunks over a much longer period of time. Probably very unlikely scenario, but something to be aware of. That, well, essentially there must be volume to be able to sell it. And also on what exchanges that particular token is actually traded. Are those well-known exchanges? Doesn't matter whether they're centralized or decentralized. I mean, we've seen recently that well-established centralized exchanges can go down literally in a matter of days. But it's important to see essentially where those tokens are being traded. Okay, so now let's look at a practical example. And like I said, I chose ApeCoin because there's plenty of information available about it. So I went through the whole thing with circulating supply and total supply already. I mean, of course, market cap, you're probably well familiar with it. So it's $1.2 billion currently. We can see the price of the token. We can look at market cap, how it changed over time. Let's go to the maximum. So we can compare that against the price. We can see that currently only about a third of all tokens is in circulation, right? So that's why also the market cap and the fully diluted valuation are different, because the market cap is based on the price per coin at the current supply. So that's 361 million, more or less, multiplied by 3.48. However, if all the tokens were suddenly dumped on the market, that would be fully diluted valuation, right? So that's this price multiplied by this, more or less. So ideally, you would like to see these two being as close to each other as possible, because that means that there is no risk of large number of tokens being dumped at any given point in time. In reality, it would be very rarely the case that these two figures are very similar. Very often you will find that, well, tokens will be released over time, and that's absolutely fine as long as you are exactly aware of how that's going to happen. And what's quite cool about ApeCoin is that you can actually look up tokenomics on CoinGecko. Not every token, in fact, vast majority of tokens doesn't have full tokenomics on CoinGecko, but I imagine that over time, more of them will be added to this platform. And if this is already not available on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap, then you just have to go to the project's white paper, and I will show you an example with ApeCoin as well in a minute. And basically you have to rely on the information being accurate and being provided in the white paper. If there is hardly any information in the white paper about the tokenomics, that's potentially a big red flag. At the very least, you should then contact the project team and try to find out something about it. Is there a particular reason? Maybe they're just changing it or tweaking it or something like that, and they're about to update it. But you would expect something or as much information as possible to be in the white paper. And if there's nothing provided online, and if the project team cannot provide you clear answers, well, that's quite a big red flag, because essentially you have absolutely no idea how this project will release the tokens and when and how it all will happen. So something that may potentially look really good at the very beginning can then crash at any point in time, because suddenly someone may dump a lot of tokens, essentially maybe just a rug pull, right? So let's look at ApeCoin tokenomics. So you have this chart here that shows how the tokens are being distributed. So you can see that 8% goes to Bored Ape Yacht Club founders, 1% goes to charity, 15% to Yuga Labs, 14% to launch contributors. So imagine that's probably like marketing advisors, and so on. 15% of the tokens were distributed to Bored Ape, Mutant Ape holders, or combination with Bored Kennel Yacht Club or whatever it's called. And then treasury and resources, 47%, so almost half of all tokens. And that's something really important, because you will find this very often with many other projects. So you have to remember that when there is any form of, let's say, staking, right? So you can earn interest on staking tokens. This staking, those rewards are not being created somehow during the lifetime of a token, right? In 99% of cases, those rewards are actually in this pool right here. So basically, certain number of tokens was originally assigned as rewards in staking. So it's perfectly normal that the very large percentage is assigned to staking, but it's just something to be aware of, that this is how this works. Staking rewards are not being created through some sort of economical mechanism. It's just assigned at the very, very beginning. A certain number of tokens assigned at the very beginning. So you can see essentially how this is all divided here. And this is the supply schedule, or the vesting schedule, or the lockup schedule, or whatever else you want to call it. So you can see that when the tokens were released, all the tokens which were given to the Bored Ape or Mutant Ape holders, they were all released straight away, right? And it won't change over time. Then ecosystem fund, so this biggest chunk here, that's being gradually released over time in a linear fashion. And then everything else, there was a certain number released at the beginning, then a little bit more released, then there is a bit of a bump, and then it just sort of keeps going up. And then again, for a long period of time, it will be a linear release. So you can see how many tokens at which points will be released. So of course, if it's a linear progress, then well, you can expect that certain number of tokens will be released each month. So there shouldn't be huge fluctuations because of that. I mean, the price may dip slightly the moment new batch is released, but at least it's all very, very predictable. When you see slight bump like this one here, or this one, or this one, you can potentially expect slightly more aggressive price action because suddenly there will be more token than usual hitting the market, especially in this phase here. So that will be around, I believe, July 2023 or something like that, or between June and August 2023. In that period, you can potentially expect that the price of Ape token will dip a bit. So that's really important to understand, to be aware of it. And then how does it look like if the information is not provided on CoinGecko? So if you have to go and check it on the website or in a white paper. So again, I chose ApeCoin because there's plenty of information available here. Of course, it's a huge project, so they have plenty of people working on it. And of course, they do it in a very professional way. That not necessarily will be always the case. Simply may come from lack of experience, lack of time, and so on. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is anything wrong with a project if all that information is not fully provided. But it's just something that you will then need to find out. You cannot just sort of leave it and hope for the best. So yeah, you can read here about all the ideas behind it. So how the tokens are being distributed, or what's the idea behind the token. And then we get to the important stuff here. So you have ApeCoin allocation. So that's just a different way of the chart I just showed you here. So here it's on a linear scale. And then you can see here exactly how many tokens, specifically percentages and numbers, are being assigned to each category, when they will be unlocked. So for example, like I said, Bored Ape and Mutant Ape holders, all tokens unlocked for claim at launch. And tokens that go to the treasury, this amount unlocked at launch, and then this many will be unlocked per month for 48 months. So that was this red line here, right? So certain number straight away, and then every month gradually unlocked over a period of, was it 48 months? Yeah, 48 months, so 4 years or so. Then we have certain number assigned to the team. So initial lockup for 12 months, and then specific amount unlocked per month for 3 years. Similar thing with the charity tokens. Then launch contributors, again, depends on the contributor, but you can see that certain amount unlocked upfront, then certain after 6 months, then basically after 6 months for a certain period of time. But there are also different scenarios here and so on. So, I mean, beyond that is just more info about how you can claim it, etc., etc. But this is the kind of information you would ideally want to see. When those tokens, who holds those tokens or who will hold them in the future, when they are being unlocked, when you can expect them to hit the market, what's the overall purpose of the token in this case, what's the purpose of the ApeCoin, and this then all together allows you to estimate what are the chances of this project, or is it a good time to invest in it, or maybe sometimes it may be just good to wait literally a couple of days until the next batch of tokens is unlocked, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, you shouldn't invest into it at all. It's just, is it a good time to do it now or not? And also I mentioned before that you should look at the volume. So you look at the markets, and then you can straight away see, let's have a look at 24-hour volume. So, I mean, of course, millions of dollars worth of ApeCoin is being traded every day. And you can see which are the biggest exchanges, what is the trading pair, so Ape to Tether or Ape to BUSD and so on. And yeah, you can see that, well, that's easily tradable. Even large amounts of this token are very, very easily tradable. So yeah, like I said, I think it's a very, very important subject, tokenomics, because you need to be able to evaluate projects correctly. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, please pop them down in the comment section, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.